pleasant day to all of us. Today we are discussing the policing system in Australia, wherein the law enforcement officers in the country of Australia are employed by all three levels of government, such as in federal, state or territory, and in local. Federally, the main law enforcement agency of Australia is the Australian Federal Police, which has a wide mandate to enforce Australian criminal law and protects its national interests.
People and culture. Australia is the sixth largest country in the world, yet its people is comparatively small, at only roughly 26 million people. This make it one of the least populated countries in the world. The culture of Australia is primarily based on Western culture. It reflects in British history when the colonization of Australia began in 1788 and the cultural input of Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander, and other Australian people. Evidence of significant Anglo-Celtic customs include the majority of English-speaking people, the existence of democratic system, of government illustration from British tradition. In today's modern world, Australia is highly urbanized, with people gathered into relatively small areas around major cities. Several Australians appreciate the high standard of living, with enough social and economic security to give them reasonably optimistic viewpoint of freedom and possibilities around them. Organizational structure and rank classification. Chief of Police. As the highest position is the Commissioner, Deputy Commissioner, Senior Assistant Commissioner, and Assistant Commissioner. For the Superintendent, Chief Superintendent, and Superintendent. For the Inspector, Chief Inspector, and Inspector. For the Sergeant, Senior Sergeant, Incremental Sergeant, and Sergeant. For the Constable, Leading Senior Constable, Incremental Senior Constable, Senior Constable, and lastly, the Constable.
To become a police officer in Australia, there are processes steps that needs to be followed. And these are personal requirements for a police officer Australian. You need to be at least 18 years of age, should hold a driver license, able to satisfy medical and fitness requirements, Australian citizenship, strong sense of leadership, understanding yet confident, good communication skills, great decision-making skills, and sound of character. To become a police officer or AFP, you usually have to gain your senior secondary certificate of education or complete year 10 plus a trade certificate. To get into a degree courses, you usually need to gain your senior secondary certificate of education. Institutions have different requirements and have some flexible entry or offer eternal study. Successful applicants complete 24 weeks of training at the AFP College in Barton. To join the AFP, applicant must pass aptitude, medical and psychometric tests, and a selection assessment. Applicant must hold a provide first aid certificate and able to swim 100 meters. These policing strategies. All countries have different policing strategies. For Australia, here are some of their strategies. One is leadership and change in Winnipeg. Smart Policing Initiative. This study looks at the Smart Policing Initiative or SPI implemented by Winnipeg Police Service. Line officers and management personnel were interviewed to determine how they dealt with the implementation of SPI. They used activity data to determine whether officers actually carried out the activities integral to the SPI program. Another one is police are using artificial intelligence to spot written lies. They are using machine learning and text analysis. They've been able to identify false robbery reports with such accuracy. Next is operating at the speed of challenge. Adaptive as a new for police command and control at critical incidents. The Police Intelligence Division of Labor is also one of the Australian policing. It is argued that police organization gains overall coherence in relationship to the police that allows protagonists in the police world to make sense of the irrational workplace structure where personal loyalty, trust, and honor form the basis in compliance. In conclusion, policing strategies are all important since it helps attain peace and order in one community and country.
Form of government. Australia is a constitutional monarchy in the Westminster tradition. A monarchy is a country where the position of head state inherited. It is similar to governments in Britain, Canada, and New Zealand. The interesting part of the question is how the type of government has benefited the nation. Australia has a high standard of living. People live with high levels of personal safety, are wealthy by international standard, and there is comprehensive healthcare system in place, an adequate welfare system, and reasonable social cohesion. Australia became a nation as a result of British imperialism. Its history is a similar that respect to that of Canada and New Zealand. It is also analogous to the colonial history of nations in South America, where the Spanish and Portuguese were most influential. Australia has something in common with South American nations: resource rich and large in landmass, but are very important difference also. Australian national governments has always been democratic. In fact, universal suffrage was introduced in Australia before most other democracies. There are very low levels of corruption, and stability of government has contributed to considerable prosperity. That's all. Thank you.
So the next one was the police force. The Australian Federal Police, or aka AFP, is Australian National Police Force or agency. It was responsible for enforcement of Australian federal criminal law and protecting Australian national interests from crime in Australia and overseas. These forces carry out the bulk of general policing throughout the entire state. That was the police force.
The Australian police hierarchy or the command structure is similar to the US police hierarchy. The Australian police hierarchy is described from the highest rank to the lower one. This starts from commissioned police ranks that have 5 ranks: Deputy Commissioner, Assistant Commissioner, Commander, Superintendent, and Inspector. Next is the non-commissioned ranks, consists of 2 parts: senior non-commissioned police ranks and the junior non-commissioned police ranks. The senior non-commissioned police ranks have 2 parts. These are senior sergeant and the sergeant. The junior non-commissioned police ranks have 3 parts: senior constable, and the probationary constable. and the last in the command structure are the recruits or the cadets. The supervising agency of the Australia is the Australian Federal Police. The Australian Federal Police is the national and principal federal law enforcement agency of the Australian government, with the unique role of investigating crime and protecting the national security of the Commonwealth of Australia. The Australian Federal Police is an independent agency of the Department of Home Affairs and is responsible to the Minister for Home Affairs and accountable to the Parliament of Australia. Last October 2019, the Commissioner of the Australian Federal Police is Rhys Kershaw, formerly the Northern Territory Police Commissioner. They focus on preventing, investigating, and organized crime including terrorism, violent extremism, cybercrime, child exploitation, drug smuggling, and human trafficking. The Australian Federal Police is also responsible for delivering community policing in the Australian Capital Territory. The Australian Federal Police is also a member of the National Intelligence Committee and works closely with the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation, the Australian Border Force, and the Australian Criminal Intelligence Commission. The different types of law enforcement in Australia are the Australian Border Force. Their mission is to protect Australia's border and enable legitimate travel and trade. Australian Defence Force Investigative Service. They conduct high-level police investigations, both domestically and internationally. Australian Federal Police is to enforce Commonwealth criminal law, contribute to combating complex, transnational, serious, and organized crime impacting Australia's national security. Royal Australian Air Force Police. They will work within an integrated environment, teaming up with Australian Defence Force and government professionals, as well as first responders associated with risk management, emergency management, and installation security. Royal Australian Corps of Military Police. They provide an essential element of command and control through enforcement, military discipline, civilian law, mobility, and maneuver support, security, and the operation of internment and detention centers. Royal Naval Police provides a wide-ranging investigative service to the Royal Navy and abroad, including a global reach investigation capability, operational attention in the maritime environment, the exploitation of evidence at sea.
Moving on to the highest rank and lowest rank of policing system of Australia. First is the Commissioner. Under Commissioner, there are Deputy Commissioner and Assistant Commissioner. Second is a Superintendent. Under Superintendent, there are Commander and Superintendent itself. Third is the Inspection. Under Inspection, there is an Inspector. Fourth is the Sergeant. Under Sergeant, there are Station Sergeant, Sergeant itself, and Leading Senior Sergeant. Fifth is the Constable. Under Constable, there are Senior Constable, Constable First Class, and Constable itself. Lastly is the Police Recruit.
And today I will report the age requirement and retirement of Australian Federal Police or AFP together with their best policing strategy. To be a police officer in the AFP, you must be 18 years of age or over. Be an Australian citizen, hold a valid full, provisional or automatic only driver's license. An AFP employee who has reached the minimum retiring age is entitled to retire at any time by notice in writing to the Commissioner. For the minimum retiring age is 55 years or such higher or lower age as is prescribed by the regulations. And their best policing strategy is AFP operations are divided into two programs, Federal Policing and National Security and International Police, assistance as per the PBS 2015-16. Policing strategies within these programs consist of prevention, detection, disruption, and response activities, either independently or in partnership. Program 1. Federal Policing and National Security. The Federal Policing and National Security Program addresses criminal and security threats through a range of activities including national and transnational investigations, counterterrorism, aviation operations, protective services, and joint task force with the international, Commonwealth, state, territory, and private sector partners. And the program objective is promoting the safety and security of the Australian community and infrastructure, preventing, deterring, disrupting, and investigating serious and organized crime and crimes of Commonwealth significance, and ensuring effective collaboration with international, Commonwealth, state, and territory partners. Federal Policing. This area comprises organized crime and cybercrime, crime operations, and international operations, which together provide an investigative capacity for a wide range of crime types contained in Commonwealth statutes. The purpose is to disrupt, dismantle, and combat serious and organized crime that poses a threat to Australia. National Security. This consists of counterterrorism, aviation, and protection services that focus on preventing and combating national security threats. Specialists and supporting capabilities. A range of support and specialist functions provides vital assistance to AFP operations. These include coordination and communication support, witness protection services, forensics, intelligence, covert policing capabilities, legal, litigation, security, technical, and physical operations.
That's all, and thank you for listening.